Hi, welcome to new topic. Yesterday we have seen basics of effect and use effect, which has been covered in this video, effect and the use effect basics. Today, that is 4th July 2024, time is this. We would be learning next things about the use effect and the effects. So what we have seen yesterday? What do you mean by effect? What do you mean by effect? How do you handle the side effect? Effect is nothing but what the side effect. How do you handle that we have seen? Well, you might not need the effect, so be very sure. So be very sure that you are needing the effect, right? So we discussed this yesterday. Now updating the state based on the props in the state. Updating what? The state based on the props or state. Now when you talk about the, well, one thing, let me see. Yeah. Yes. So effects, let me open the VS Code. Effect, in the same code we will write something 107 108. So in this file we have discussed the effect yesterday. Now let me create the new component, the new file, details.jsx, and here we can say function details and return some JSX section and section details page. So use effect, if you wanna have use effect, if you wanna handle some side effect, you can use the function called as use effect. Now there are three things. So if I write console.log first or without, or we can say first use effect, here we can say, and I can add this array over here, and here I can say second, this is first use effect, second use effect, and this thing, and which is returning a function, and here we can say third use effect, or let's not worry about this right now. So yeah, I can have const st and set st use state, and here I can have, here I can pass the st. Okay, here I can pass what? st. And by default this is false, and here I can say st. If this is true, print true, else print false. Let's have input type button. Okay. On click, here we can say set st, not st. Okay, just toggle value. Terminal, cd desktop, cd merge stack, day 108, and nvm use 18. nvm use what? 18. cd, okay, we are already in a day 108, where I am exactly. cd day 107, 108, npm start. What happened? npm run dev. Is there any, okay, effects? npm run dev. npm run dev. Okay, so here localhost 5173, and where is that details component? We didn't add the details component. Let's add details, export detail. Details false, details true, this thing. This we didn't want to check. Inspect it, console, clean it, refresh it. See here, first use effect called, second use effect called, then again second use effect called, and if you see third, there is a, okay, third, just refresh it, clear it, refresh it. First use effect, second use effect, third use effect. I'm clearing it and clicking on the OK. First use effect, third use effect, again OK. First use effect, third use effect, which means that this use effect is getting called all the time. I would be getting called for each component re-render, and see second is not getting called every time. If you see, first and third is getting called, second is not getting called. So I would be getting called only, so this thing is called as dependencies list. So this function should be called when the dependency gets changed. If you don't pass any dependency, this function would be called only once. Only once. That is for first rendering. That is for what? First rendering. Now, the third is getting called again and again because the dependency I would be getting called only when the st dependency, the value of st value of st gets changed. So whenever st gets changed, this function gets called. Whenever this st gets changed, this function gets called. Right? If there are no dependencies, this function gets called only during the first render. This function gets called on each component re-render. When your component re-renders, this gets called. Whenever component re-renders, the details component re-renders, this function gets called. This function gets called only on the first render. This function gets called only when the value of st gets changed. Means the call of this function is dependent on value of st. This function gets called only when the st gets called. Now sometimes what happens, this is about these three things. Never change the state inside this guy. Inside this guy. Remember that changing the state value re-renders the function. Changing the state value re-renders the component. Once component re-renders, every time this gets called. So if you call this thing set st true, right, you will get indefinite thing. Can you see? It is getting called again and again. It is constantly getting called. So if you try to do this thing, set change over here, this is getting called indefinitely. useEffect, this thing. So don't do this thing. It's a bad. That's what they are saying. By default, effects run every render. This is why the code like this will produce the infinite loop. So if you say not st, and if you come here, can you see it is getting called indefinitely? See here, true, false, true, false, true, false, happening indefinitely. So don't do this thing. This is bad idea. You can do this thing over here because this is going to call only once. Bad idea. Okay. Now specify the effect dependencies. We have seen, we have specified this dependency. In the useEffect, here we can add the dependency. That's what they have done. That's what they have done. Can you see this? This is called as dependency. Is plain dependency, right? We discussed that part as well. Yeah, see here, the behaviors without dependency and empty are the different. So this and these three are different things. That's what we talked. Every re-render only for the first re-render and changing the a and b. This is an array. You can write the multiple things. Now you can add the cleanup functions if needed. You can add what? Cleanup function. So I can write useEffect like this, and this useEffect will run only once, and from here you can write a function returning a function, closure, or the higher order functions that we have seen. And here we can write, so here we can say const ft is equals to fetch server, and here we can say ft dot or some code is there where we are making connection, connect to FB, and here in this cleanup code you can disconnect from FB. So this is the cleanup. So used for cleaning up, the side effect, used for cleaning up the side effect, right? Is that clear? Hello?
Yes.
Multiple things we have seen. Any question?
So can we run the cleaning code?
Yeah, presently, okay. Console.log. So here, cleaning up, console.log, fourth effect, refresh, and can you see this is side effect, and here we are cleaning it up. So if you see first, second, third, fourth, and here we are cleaning it up. So this will call automatically.
Yes, sir, got it.
So this is the part about this thing. How to handle the effect firing twice in a development. How to call twice in a development. Now, the React intentionally remounts components in the development to find the bugs. React intentionally remounts your React component in the development phase we are talking about. So unnecessarily, if you see here, things are getting called two times. First, we didn't call it two times. So at the time of development, React intentionally remounts your components in the development to find the bugs. Like in the last example, the React question isn't how to run the effect once, but how to mix my effect so that it works after the remounting. Usually answer is to write the cleanup function. The cleanup function should be stop or undo whatever effect was doing. The rule of thumb is that a user shouldn't be able to distinguish between effect running once, setup, cleanup, setup sequence. So technically set up the effect, clean it up, and again set up. This is what as you see in the development, right? So it is happening because of this guy, React strict mode. If you can you see now it is called once only, but this is a bad idea. So deleting this guy during the development, you need to check so this has no effect on the production systems. It has only effect in the development level systems. So this is ineffective in the production. And because of this, this is the one of the React strategy called the components 2 times to check the bugs like the previous past compatibility and the effects like memory like this, right? React does it deliberately. But in the production, this will not happen for sure. Okay. Now, yeah, something like this. If you want to open the dialog and if you want to close the dialog, so you can write the close dialog in what? Cleanup function. You can write a show dialog in effect and you can write this in a cleanup functions. Or if you want to subscribe to the event, so let's write that code. I'll create a new function, new sizer.jsx export function sizer. So here I can say h1 window size. I want to capture the window size, and if you can see the window size, or let's or say handle window size and console.log window dot. So you cannot write this thing over here. You need use effect and do it only once. Either you do it only once, return a function. So here we can say window dot add event listener. Just a minute. Just a minute. So if you see, there is an event called as resize. So let's not add it right now. Resize. Here we can say window dot inner width and let's add sizer. Okay, there is an error. And second parameter is this function. Call this function on the resize of the window. Now let's try to resize the window. Can you see inner width is getting consoled? But if you go here, elements, event listeners, and here if you see resize, and if you see there are multiple event listeners are getting attached. Remove, remove, remove. Go to the resize. 2 times event listener is getting attached. Event listener. This is the useEffect sizer, and add the event listener. And what? Add the event listener. In the app.jsx, you have added the sizer in this way. So this is the side effect. What is side effect in a React? Writing this function, if you write this without useEffect, because your component should just render the things with the given data, and if you do something like this, it will create a problem. That's the side effect, and that's why you need to write it over here. So either you need to call it only once, like this, because if you don't add the dependency list, this function is going to be called again and again multiple times. Okay, so this function, if you write this thing only once, if you want to call, or you can write the cleanup code like this: window dot remove event listener, and name of the event listener is resize. Now go here, refresh the code, and here and the resize. Yeah, there is an error. Fail to execute. Okay, here also this guy need to be passed. Remove event listener. In the DOM, we add something like this. And if you go to the resize, you can see there is, just refresh it. And if you see resize, now there is only one. Why? Because one is unwanted, and that we have unregistered from here. useEffect, return. This is the cleaning of the code. That's what we have seen in the cleanup. So a lot of things we can do under the useEffect that we are going to use time to time. Sending analytics and other things. We will see all these things time to time. Okay. So next thing, this is about So all these things we have seen today. So all these are the examples we are going to see time to time, fetching data and other thing. Now life cycle of the reactive effects. So what do we mean by reactive effects? We will see in the next session. Okay. Fine, that's it for a day. We'll meet tomorrow. Hello?
Yes, sir.
I'll push this much code.
Yes.
React. Use effects. Advanced. So here I have pushed the code. You may check it. Fine. Let's call it for a day. We'll meet tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.